This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 49 local dispensaries, 14 cultivation sites, and 13 processing facilities, serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Check them out over at curaleaf.com, spelled Curaleaf. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, September 26th, 2019, and you're tuned into episode 806 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Today's news starts off with as big a headline as we've had here in a long while, as the U.S. House of Representatives voted yesterday by a count of 321 to 103 in favor of the Safe Banking Act, which you should know lifts federal prohibitions on banks doing businesses with state legal marijuana operators. This long developing and complex storyline has been active recently as pushback sprung up over the choice to vote on the Safe Banking Act before legislation with more comprehensive social justice provisions. But the vote yesterday was strongly in support for bringing legal cannabis banking out of the shadows and into the light of regulation. The vote was fairly partisan, with all but one Democrat voting in favor, while 102 Republicans voted against it, with 91 voting in favor. The Senate version of the bill is currently in committee, and its chances aren't super clear, though the strong vote tally from yesterday in the House should help provide it some momentum. Kyle Yeager has a full and comprehensive take on this with all kinds of reactions and background and context and embedded tweets. It's all there over Marijuana Moment. Swing over and absorb it. Continuing on today's big top storyline, we have House Democrat Gerald Kneedler releasing a statement that he would continue to push for the passage of his proposed Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, also known as the MOR Act, which was highlighted by activists as the bill that should have been passed before the Safe Banking Act, as the MOR Act addresses a wide number of social justice and equity issues. Representative Kneedler, who hails from New York State, paired his announcement to push forward on the MOR Act along with a pledge to vote in favor of the Safe Banking Act, which he obviously did yesterday. We haven't won this whole war on marijuana until we've sent everyone home from prison who should be, and done all that we can to address the disparate harms done to certain communities by the government. The MOR Act is a necessary and vital piece of that puzzle. Our final top story today has us wrapping up in Pennsylvania, where yesterday Governor Tom Wolf announced that he was now in favor of legalizing adult use marijuana. Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman traveled all over the state earlier this year conducting public meetings to gauge the public's thoughts on marijuana legalization, hitting 67 counties in all. Governor Wolf cited those meetings in his announcement yesterday, saying the overwhelming majority of people were in favor of enacting more progressive marijuana law. Governor Wolf and Lieutenant Governor Fetterman now say they will push to decriminalize marijuana and will work with state lawmakers on ways to pass adult use legalization. There are just under 13 million people living in Pennsylvania, which sits right smack in the middle of a lot of other big states like New York, Ohio, and New Jersey, so adult use legalization would have a broad impact there. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz on in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 49 local dispensaries, 14 cultivation sites, and 13 processing facilities, serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Curaleaf wants you to live life well, which is why the good folks over there have put so much time and energy into making sure their operations are built around world-class quality, top-notch customer education, and a deep compassion for the people who use their products. Curaleaf believes that cannabis is powerful and can improve people's lives. Pop over to curaleaf.com today to find the closest Curaleaf shop to you, because there's no better way to experience the Curaleaf difference than by making a visit yourself. You can also, while you're on curaleaf.com, read about their support for the Veterans Cannabis Project, which works to expand access to medical marijuana by military veteran patients. You can check out that project in particular over at vetscp.org, which is spelled VETSCP.org. Big thanks to everyone at Curaleaf for helping support today's show. All right, time for the Blitz. The Boston Globe takes a really good look at the impact that the recently announced ban on vaping in the state of Massachusetts has had on the legal vaporizer industry. As you should be able to imagine, it's fairly disruptive to one's business when the government announces an outright ban on what you sell. The 4-month vape ban imposed by Governor Charlie Baker this week is shuttering vape shops all over Massachusetts, forcing layoffs and inventory fire sales and a lot of financial loss, as it's just not economically feasible for many vape shops to carry their stores for 4 months while they wait to hear what the state intends to do. Besides the financial hardship the ban is causing on vaporizer shop owners, consumers are afraid that they will be forced to pay more money for out-of-state options or have to turn to illicit providers. There's also the possibility that some vape consumers will pick smoking tobacco back up. None of those options are great. This is a complex story that's worthy of fully understanding, so I'd suggest you read this one today. Zip over to the Boston Globe for the full dive in. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. The California Department of Public Health just issued a warning to Californians that they should avoid using any kind of vaporizer while the cause of illnesses attributed to their use is worked out. California Governor Gavin Newsom recently issued an executive order setting aside $20 million for a public service campaign, letting people know that vaporizer use has risks. In yesterday's announcement, the Department of Public Health also said that a total of 90 Californians have been hospitalized so far for illnesses thought to be caused by vaporizers, and that 2 people have died. Sunens Farms, a licensed Canadian marijuana cultivator, just signed an $84 million Canadian or $63 million US financing deal underwritten by the Bank of Montreal, a big and traditional financial institution that has gotten involved in recent years in legal cannabis. I think this is an important overall storyline, as it could provide some clues for how things will develop soon enough down here in the States once we get rid of the federal ban on banking. ABC7 Chicago has a local story up about a bus driver in Kane County, Illinois, who lost her job after failing a regular annual drug screening for marijuana. Missy Barton said that she is not a cannabis consumer beyond taking hemp oil caplets to treat back pain. It's that hemp oil that is the most likely cause of Miss Barton's failed test, as the concentration process can turn low THC hemp stock into higher THC concentrated oil. The propensity for THC metabolites to build up and accumulate in one's body also lends to the higher possibility of failed drug screenings. There are a lot of weird, messy edge cases with the progressive reform of marijuana policy, and this is certainly one of them. Good thing to know about for sure. Leafly put together a good piece detailing the second annual Expungement Week, which is taking place this week with events planned all over the United States. Tens of millions of people have been directly impacted by the war on marijuana by being arrested and subject to the criminal justice system, while tens of millions more have felt the impact through the loss of loved ones sent to jail or from just having to help pay for lawyers, fees, and fines. Expungement for cannabis crimes is critically important because it removes the lingering drain that past drug charges can have on a person through the loss of government benefits, as well as making it harder to find a job and a place to live. Read this story. Marijuana market researchers, the Canalists, have estimated that just 14% of the overall demand for marijuana in Canada is being met by the legal market, with illicit sales making up the rest. They ran the overall estimated demand for cannabis in Canada and the estimated total sales seen in legal dispensaries, and it was pretty basic from there to get 14%. Given the difficult rollout that Canadian marijuana has had over the last year or so, that doesn't sound crazy. Certainly seems closer than the half of the market claimed by the administration of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Today's final headline is a comprehensive roundup of some of the more important pieces of state legislature addressing cannabis that were considered in California in this year's legislative session. Some of the called out bills include new legislation increasing funding for social equity programs, creating tax write-offs to help offset the costs of federal tax compliance, and one that would allow nonprofit organizations to accept donated cannabis to be given out to medical patients of low economic means. An issue I've covered here lots on the daily in the past. If knowing more about California makes you better at your job, give this one a read. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Cureleaf, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.